Today I want to speak about one of the most important Norwegian black metal bands, and I'm speaking about MAYHEM. Everybody inside black metal, and not only inside black metal, knows what is MAYHEM. One of the most important bands, their influence in black metal, and especially in Norwegian black metal, is so great. Together with Burzum, together with Darkthrone and Thorns, maybe they are the most important bands inside the true Norwegian black metal sound. Of course, together with Emperor, Satyricon, Immortal, Hades Almighty, Enslaved, and etc. and etc. etc. I can continue from here until to eternity to speak about Norwegian black metal bands, Hulverve, and so on and so on. Here I will try first of all to make a worst to best, to rank their albums to worst to best. Really don't have really worst albums, but let's say, okay, we know, especially we can say that the band has three special periods: the period before the Mysteries Dom Satanas, the period of the Mysteries Dom Satanas, and the period after the Mysteries Dom Satanas. But some people also we can say we will say that we can make another separation of the period of the periods of MAYHEM. The first period, maybe we will say, starts with the beginning of the band in 1984. The band started in Oslo of Norway, from Øystein Asareth. We know him as Euronymous, and by the drummer Mannheim. And the band at the beginning, they played something. They wanted they want to have a sound as Venom, Motorhead, Black Sabbath, Bathory, Slayer, Celtic Frost, something like that. For example, the name of the band is coming from the song of Venom, MAYHEM with Mercy, from the album Welcome to Hell. And not only that, but many members of the band afterwards, they took names from songs from the demo of Hellhammer, Satanic Rites. Here we can find songs as Messiah, Maniac, Euronymous. Okay. Now, the first demo of the band was Pure Fucking Armageddon, and in the beginning they had the two singers. In the first days also Euronymous sang some songs, but afterwards they had two singers, Erik Christiansen by the name Maniac and Erik Norheim by the name Messiah. Messiah, he was in the band until 1985. Afterwards he left the band. And one of the first EPs that the band made was the EP Death Grass in 1987. But in these days they played something between proto black metal, death metal, thrash metal, and punk, with punk influences, not the true Norwegian black metal. In these days, Euronymous, he had a label. The first name of the label was Poser Corpse Music. Afterwards, he called it Death Like Silence Productions, and he had a shop, special this shop Helvete. In Norwegian the name is Hell. Afterwards this shop became the headquarters of the inner cycle of Norwegian black metal. And in these days also Maniac and MAYHEM, the drummer, left the band in 1988. But I have to say that in these days also Euronymous, he was so against death metal. So in the Death Grass album, in the first EP, he had this sign of Scott Burns, the producer of so many great death metal albums, with this sign, and he wrote no fun, no core, no moss, no trends. And here, because many bands of death metal in their albums of R.I.P, they had here the word moss, so here Euronymous wrote anti-moss. Okay, but it's so funny because the first album that came out from the Death Like Silence Productions was also a death metal album, death thrash metal album from Sweden, from the Swedish band Merciless, and their first album of them, The Awakening, great death thrash metal album. Okay, now in 1988 they brought another singer, a new singer from Sweden, at Per Yngve Ochlin, that we know him by the name Dead. Now, he was in another band before. His band in Sweden was the name. They had the name Morbid, and he came out. They made a demo, a great demo by the name December Moon. Also here they played a proto-black death thrash metal. And if you ask me if I prefer the first demo, the demo of Morbid, December Moon from the Death Cross, I will say that for me this is a little bit even more greater from Death Cross, but this is my personal opinion. Of course, Ochlin, he has his demons. He was obsessed with suicide. He was one of the first black metallers. He started the corpse paint. For them, they say that he was not influenced from Alice Cooper or from Kiss or from King Diamond, the Merciful Fate, but he wanted to be like a corpse. Also, he buried his clothes to the ground before the live appearance of the band. In so many concerts, he cut himself in the States, at the States. Okay. And we know that in 1990 the band wanted to start to make the album The Mysteries Dom Satanas, and for this reason they went to a forest close to Oslo, and there in 8th of April of 1991, unfortunately, Per Yngve Ochlin he commits suicide. He wrote a letter before that. In the letter he wrote, "Excuse all the blood. I'm not a human. This is only a dream, and soon I will wake. I didn't come up with this now, but 17 years ago." Also, he left there the lyrics of the song "Life Eternal." We know the story. Euronymous came. He was the first that he found the body of Dead, and he went back, bought a camera, a photograph camera. He came back. He photographed he took pictures of the body, and the picture afterwards, one of these pictures became the cover art of the bootleg live album Dawn of the Black Hearts. Also, he took some pieces of the head of Dead, of the skull of Dead, and he gave them to some of the most important for him members of the inner cycle. For example, Faust, the drummer and also a murderer of Emperor, he took one of them, for example. Now, after the suicide of Dead, they brought another singer by the name Johansen, and he was with the name known by the name Occultus, but he left the band after a little time because he said that he took a death threat from Euronymous. Now, in 1991, because of this suicide and because of how Euronymous took the whole thing, Necrobutzer, he was very, very crazy against him. He left the band also. And so, in 1992, they brought in the band the bassist Varg Vikernes. He was known by the name Count Krishna from Burzum. And we know also the whole connection between Euronymous and Varg. The first Burzum album, the EP, the Aske, also Euronymous publicized it by Date Like Silence Productions, and the whole problematic situation between them. I think that from one point and afterwards, they were Varg and Euronymous, Varg from one side from Burzum and Euronymous from the other side. They were the two leaders of the Black Norwegian inner cycle, and the antagonism between them became even greater when both of them they went to make crazy things, to burn churches. Okay. Also, there was also a political difference between them, not so important. For example, Varg, he was Nazi. Euronymous, he was extreme communist, Stalinist. Okay. In any case, also they brought the guitarist of Thorns by the name Snore Rach, also known by the name Blackthorn, as the guitarist of MAYHEM, and Attila Krishar, if I prefer the name well, from Hungary, from the band Tormentor. Now, and in these days, also Euronymous closed Helvete. Was inside the time that many churches were burned from the inner cycle. Not only that, but Euronymous and Varg, they wanted also to blow up the Nidaros Cathedral, that we can see it in the cover art of The Mysteries of Satanas. So in the day that the album, they would publish the album together, they wanted also to blow up this church. But of course, the whole thing postponed because in 10th of August 1993, Varg, together with Snow, traveled 518 kilometers from Bergen to Oslo to the home of Euronymous in the night, and there he murdered Euronymous. The whole thing is that Varg, he says that he was in self-defense, but to stab someone with 23 stabs, most of them 16 in his back, he's not exactly, let's say, self-defense. In any case, Varg, he was for this reason 21 years in prison, and Snore 8 years in prison. Now, Attila and Hellhammer understood that they would not continue disband the band, until some months afterwards, Maniac and the Necrobutzer came back together with Hellhammer and Blasphemer. They made the new MAYHEM. So from there, Maniac continued to be the singer until the album Chimera. Afterwards, he left the band. Also, after a little bit, Blasphemer left the band, and Attila came back in 2004 as the singer of the band. So now, after all these things, let's go to the albums. And also we had all this story about the Lords of Chaos, and many people did like the movie because the whole story about Varg, if he was only the bad guy. Also, it was very charming to see that they put a Jewish actor by the name Cohen to play Varg. In any case, let's say that also Euronymous and also Varg, they were problematic people. But from the other hand, they made both of them great music. Okay, now I will try to rank their albums. So let's start. In the 9th place for me comes their first EP, Death Grass of 1987, because it's a great EP, but this is not exactly the true Norwegian black metal as we know it. In the 8th place, their 5th album, studio album of 2014, Esoteric Warfare. Great album, but not so great as if I make a connection with it with Ordo ad Cheo. In the 7th place, their second studio album that there became really something else. They speak about Grand Declaration of War with Maniac as a singer. Came out in 2000, the beginning of the millennium. In the 6th place, their second EP. Also here we can with Maniac. Also here we can see the big difference of the sound of 1997 Wolf's Lair Abyss. In the 5th place, their last album until now, their 6th album of 2019 by the name Demon, and this is a great album. Maybe the album that's even more closer to the sound of the Mysteries Dom Satanas. 4th place, the greatest album of Mayhem of the post-Euronymous period of Mayhem, Ordo ad Cheo of 2007, their 4th album. A very dark black metal album. In the 3rd place, their last album of Maniac of 2004, and we speak about Chimera. Yes, I like this album even a little bit more from Ordo ad Cheo. And now in the 2nd place, one of their live albums, live in Leipzig. I said it before, it comes with this cover art. Also Transylvanian Hunger from Drag Throne took idea from here, in my opinion. Okay, this live was with Dead, and the live was in 26th of November of 1990 in Leipzig in East Germany, but came out only in on April of 1993. And in the 1st place, of course, their first debut album, The Mysteries Dom Satanas, that came out only in 1994 with Attila as their singer. Great album. One of the last albums, maybe one of the only albums that the murderer and the victim and the murderer played in the same album. So from Israel and from Jerusalem, stay metal and stay heavy.